Masters of innovation.
Looking towards the future with anticipation, raising up the technological conversation from the east to the west and all across the nation. If knowledge is the cure, then we got the medication. We're the masters of innovation, the masters of innovation. We're the masters of innovation, the masters of innovation.
Welcome, everybody, back to another episode of the Masters of Innovation. Here with the cutting-edge knowledge you need to evolve to tomorrow. As always, I'm Garrett Wagner, your entrepreneurial CPA channel host, and I'm joined by the man that's going to be known as Joey Boy from here on out. Joey Boy. We're back, part two, IRS Dirty Dozen list. Now, Joey, before we get into this, do you want to play us a little ditty to kind of kick off number 7 on the Dirty Dozen list?
Yeah, so for anybody out there, if you're prior military and you're watching this, you remember sitting in base traffic. And I actually taught myself how to play the ukulele just sitting in base traffic, just waiting to get on base every day. Because, you know, it's small, it's compact, and you can just sit there. You can kind of like drive with your knee, put your foot on the brake, and here it goes. Are you going to sing? Do I get a...
What are we playing?
You want to play Riptide?
I don't know if I know the word. I gotta look it up. I don't think I can keep a verse to that.
Wait, no.
We should have planned this out better because I'm not sure.
We should. You want to get into scams?
Yeah.
Let's talk about scams.
Let's talk about scams. All right, so we did the top 6 of the Dirty Dozen last time.
Let's do it.
From phishing down to senior fraud, we're back. Number 7. We said it's scams targeting non-English speakers. And Joe, one of my takeaways before we dive into this, all tangential of this, a lot of these aren't that different. Phishing, phone calls, social media scams, senior fraud, non-English speaking. I mean, it's like, how many times can they say the same thing slightly different?
Yeah, it's all just various ways to part people with their money. So it generally, you know, they're segmenting different sections of the population. So like in this case, right, targeting non-English speakers, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's somebody calls them up, impersonating the IRS. You know, maybe that person, if they're not an English speaker, maybe they're not particularly here legally. And so they might be taking advantage of that. You know, they might not know the way that the tax system works if they're here from a different country and they come from obviously a different tax paying system. Or if they come from, very kind of like traditional, more authoritarian style government where, hey, if a government person calls you, like, you better pay attention, you're going to jail. All these are just different ways that they can pressure somebody who is, probably more vulnerable than the native English speaker into sending out their cash and getting scammed.
Once again, a lot of these, the non-English speaking scams, take the form of phone calls. Once again, when the IRS calls somebody and threatens jail time, deportation, something like that. Once again, these are just things the IRS is never going to do. The IRS does not have time to do this. Somehow the IRS had time to create this wonderful list that we're talking about / joking around with today, but they do not have time to make phone calls.
Or answer phone calls or return emails or
process tax returns, process amended tax returns, a whole list of things they don't have time to do. Making lists,
not so much.
They got time for that. So Joe, moving on. Number 8, bad return preparers. Whew.
Oh, a personal favorite of mine, because I deal with so many CPA firms, I get these phone calls every year. Without a doubt, it's the same thing. Hey, I got this guy. He came in. I looked at, his previous return that he gave to me. He got it from, let's say his plumber, did his taxes last year. Or, he got it at well, we can't say their name, but we all know who we're referring to, kind of the seasonal tax preparer crowd, the rather large businesses out there that, we just get inundated with commercials and YouTube commercials every year. And then it just goes like this. This thing is an utter train wreck. I think this guy committed fraud. He made all these deductions that just don't make sense, that aren't legal. So how am I supposed to talk to my new client and tell him, like, okay, I don't think this is legitimate. You might end up paying a lot of money. We're going to have to do this the right way. And then their second question is, really, what is my obligation? How far can I go to report this guy to make sure that he's not going to screw somebody else down the line? I literally get those phone calls same time of year, every single year, without fail. So, a lot of this is, obviously you've got the ghost preparers, right, who are just kind of flying by night. You've got the preparers out there that, really the only way they can gin up business is by getting these large returns. So then, hey, your neighbor Jimmy goes, oh, well, Bob did my tax return. And like, your plumber Bob did your tax? Yeah, my plumber Bob did my tax return. He does taxes every year. And he got me this amazing return. I got all this money back, right? And then it's kind of this word of mouth marketing scheme. And it just screws people over every year. It's quite sad. I'd say moral of the story, use a CPA to do your tax return. Like, yes, it costs more, obviously, but like, I would rather have somebody who's like sole, life and occupation is dedicated to studying and understanding the tax code, as opposed to a guy who took a couple classes, passed a very rudimentary test, and then he's off to the races.
Yeah, and that's, like you said, bad return preparers. We see that all the time. Sometimes the scams are, a return outfitted shop. I know Liberty Tax got in trouble for this several years ago. Just they were finding huge amounts of fraudulent tax returns. Watch out for that. That shouldn't be something that impacts most of our preparers. It's like you said, it's when we get a new client, how do we talk to them? All right, so that's 8. Moving on, number 9, offers in compromise mills. So what are they even talking about here? What you want to explain to me in English what this fanciness is trying to talk about?
Oh, yeah. It comes down to this phrase: we will settle with the IRS for pennies on the dollar. Every year you're going to see those commercials out there. It's, these tax debt resolution services that are saying like, hey, you've got this huge tax bill and I'm going to put up this stock footage guy who, allegedly used to work for the IRS, and we're going to settle for you, and you're going to settle for pennies on the dollar, and you can get your life back. And, most times it's just not really legitimate, because I believe that there are like specific legal qualifications you need to generally, actually use an offer in compromise. Obviously, like, if you think about it just logically, you can't just not pay taxes for 10 years and then, 99% of that just gets wiped off by the IRS, or everybody would do that. So if it sounds too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true. Warn your clients about these types of people.
And that's a great one. Talk to their CPA first, understand the rules, the regulations, what they can do. The other part there, Joe, a little statistic for everybody out there, quoting the actual user information, not just Joey Boy's ukulele skills. In 2019, or somewhere around 33% of offers in compromise were accepted. So, they got it says they got 54,000 applications in 2019. Only 33% fit the criteria and got accepted. So it sounds great. It can work sometimes. Another reason why you need an actual competent real life CPA that can figure things out, and not a made up person that you see on a pretty infomercial. Great advice from us, coming to you from your computer screen. So Joe, moving on, Joey Boy, number 10. Fake payments with repayment demands.
Okay, so, sorry, let me fix my microphone here. In this, it's criminals trick taxpayers into sending them their refund. So the criminal steals or somehow otherwise obtains a taxpayer's personal data, so like their social security number and their bank account information, then files a bogus tax return, has that refund deposited, And then from there, they, go back and then they stage themselves as being a member of the IRS and demanding that tax money back. And obviously the guy got scammed, the scammer walks away with the money, and then the person still, they have to go through all the hoops all over again. So pretty nasty, not a lot of fun.
One of my favorite ones in this is that though the scammer is going to request generally the money back to them for that incorrect refund in the form of gift cards.
Mm-hmm.
Like of all things, the IRS could be like, "Oh, Joey boy, we gave you too much money. Can you please send me some Amazon gift cards?
Gift cards.
And actually, I need some clothes. Give me some Gap gift cards. Yeah, they're still in business. And I'm a big Home Depot fan. So Amazon, Gap, and Home Depot for about $3,000 each would be great." It just doesn't even make sense.
But yet somebody's falling for this because they keep doing it. It's like those terrible, like seen on TV infomercials where they're always selling like some widget. The trick is the more often you see that commercial, the more successful it is in selling that widget, right? Because it's a funding mechanism. So it's like, a self-licking ice cream cone where it just keeps funding itself to put out the same terrible infomercial all the time.
So, Joe, are you telling me that the YouTube ad that I've been seeing constantly that I can lose weight by taking this really expensive dietary pill that I paid a whole bunch of money for is not going to work?
No, actually, I get chased around the internet by, and I don't think this is a scam, but on a related note, I actually get chased around the internet by CPA exam prep courses. I mean, just constantly.
Oh,
that and ironically, insurance commercials, just nonstop, where it's like, buy your insurance with us. And I'm like, I'm an insurance guy. I'm just researching things.
now, Joe, I don't know if I told this. What I get a lot of on Pandora, which has got me a little bit worried,
Mm-hmm.
because they're always worried, how much of these different organizations just listening to your life to do stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I get a lot of commercials on Pandora for help with schizophrenia.
Is that a cry for help there, Garrett?
Not from my side. I feel fine, but it makes me a little weird that like I keep getting these like, it doesn't seem like a common Pandora commercial. Do you feel like you might be suffering from schizophrenia? Do you feel like another schizophrenia attack is right around the corner? Learn how to deal with that and reduce your episodes. It's such a non-traditional commercial as well that I'm just so curious as to like, where did the algorithm come from that decides that I need that commercial right now?
So schizophrenia is estimated to affect only 1% of the population.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very, very severe mental health disease. I'm not trying to make fun of it. It is a truly very, very severe.
Oh, yeah, it sounds terrible. Oh, yeah. But it makes you wonder, so if only 1% of people are affected by this, like, how does that possibly translate into this, like, general radio commercial?
Well, that's like on Pandora. The commercials should be generally targeted by a demographic.
Towards you.
Like it's all social media targeting. It's all saying like, play it for someone that's, white, 30 to 40 when the first episode might hit, certain income levels where they've got enough, they're going to be serious about this. Like it should be based on pretty serious demographics if the advertising company is worth their money. So tangential, those are the media targets me and Joe get is Joe. People want Joe to pass the CPA exam, and people worry that I'm going to have a psychological break. So
which actually, Garrett, they're I don't know if you heard this, but they're talking about changing the CPA exam, which topic for another episode.
Okay, I thought you were going to my mental health there. I feel much better. But speaking of mental health, number 11, Joe, we're almost to the end. Payroll and human resource scams.
Oh, constant. This really kind of, goes into the business email compromise is where this actually plays out. And so it's somebody gets their email compromised. There's a million different ways that can happen. It can be everything from clicking on the wrong link to, surfing on the internet, finding something you're not supposed to find, to, infected home devices and transferring data into work. But the gist of it is they're going in there, they compromise someone's email, and then they start digging around and they're looking for, really like HR type information, generally W-2s. And then once they get those W-2s and they get all the information on there, W-2s, 1099, sky's the limit, and fraudulent returns get filed. It happens, unfortunately, every year, and I would say increasingly happens every year. So moral of the story, don't use your work computer to cruise the internet. Hopefully everybody here has like a computer use policy. And two, because I dealt specifically with this case, if it seems too good to be true, and this sounds ridiculously simple. If it seems too good to be true, like, hey, some huge unicorn of a client wants to do business with us, instead of downloading an attachment, pick up the phone, talk to a human being, and you'd be shocked how many times that would have prevented, say, like a business email compromise. But back to our original kind of, train of conversation here. It happens every single year. People get their email compromised. Hackers start, rummaging around. They get personal data. They're filing returns for people, and then it just implodes.
And this is another one too, where once again, just doesn't seem reasonable. A lot of times it involves gift cards. If someone's asking you for gift cards, it's pretty much going to be a fraud. Real people and businesses don't accept gift cards as payment. So Joe, we've made it through 11. That's a lot. Some were interesting. Some were very similar, not too different. And they kind of saved the most technologically sophisticated, shall I say, for the last one, ransomware. And we're recording this on July 27, 2020. And, there was just a big ransomware attack last week. The big fitness company Garmin, massive ransomware attacks, shut them down, everything across the board globally. So it's a big deal. So this is a real growing cyber crime. So what do we need to know about ransomware?
So, hopefully people that are watching the show really have like a fundamental understanding of what ransomware is. For those that don't, just to give like a real brief recap, it's hacker gets into your system one way or another. From there, they're essentially encrypting your files. So essentially you need a key to now unlock those files. Encryption is used legitimately and also illegitimately in this particular case. I'd say the great secret here in the InfoSec world that I don't think enough people are actually talking about is that you can't just restore to backups. Like, it's not that simple anymore. So maybe 10 years ago, hey, you get ransomware, restore to backups, go about your daily life, you're fine. Now there's kind of the legal aspect to it, depending upon what industry you're in, what type of files you have on your system, and what clients you have and where they're residents of. There's a difference between access and acquisition. So in theory, some of your clients, if they're residents of specific states, ransomware would actually qualify as access, a lower legal threshold, which may then legally require you to provide credit monitoring, breach notification letters, et cetera. The other dirty secret here is often hackers will actually extricate your data to sell on the dark web, and then they'll hit you with ransomware. So you just go about your daily life, you restore to backups, and you think, hey, we're good to go here. And then before you know it, all of your clients have their identity stolen, and you're wondering what happened. The other kind of evolution here is something called Maze, M-A-Z-E. And essentially what they're doing is they're stealing all of your information. Then they hit you with ransomware. And in this case, a very, very sizable request for a payment. And if you don't pay them, they're just going to publish all your information online. So even if you're a company that doesn't have, say, social security numbers, credit card information, healthcare information, you probably have some sort of like trade secrets, emails amongst, the stakeholders of the organization that you probably don't want out there in the world. The English language, it's a funny beast where things that we say kind of in conversation may not translate well to text, right? Because a lot of the English language is how you're actually verbalizing those words. So something like, oh, Garrett, you are the worst, right? That is very different than me saying, Garrett, you are the worst, right? Like two very different concepts. One of the reasons why the English language is so difficult to comprehend. So you really got to be careful with ransomware. I think it's on the uptick. The statistics are hard to find out, but it's crushing people. It's not as simple as a business would assume. You can't just restore to backups, and you could lose some significant money just in downtime alone. Not even counting forensics costs, attorney, et cetera.
And really the biggest takeaway on ransomware for us as practitioners, CPAs, advisors, wherever you are, and the clients, just don't click on anything that comes through, whether it's an email attachment, a file, whatever it is. Ransomware, for it to happen, you've got to click, you have to take some action for them to install something and do that encryption.
Mm-hmm.
Just you getting the email is not enough. So be careful, be careful, be careful. Don't click, don't click, don't click, don't click on any attachments you don't recognize. You heard it right here, the Masters of Innovation and the one and only Joey Boy, the musical prodigy. So Joey Boy, we've been to the list, the top 12 dirty dozen from the IRS, things that people need to watch out for. What's your final takeaway thought before we wrap up this double-parter?
So I would just tell people, if it sounds too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true. And never think that the IRS is actually going to call you on the phone, because they're not going to do that. So if you ever have questions, I would just encourage everybody, if you're a CPA firm, definitely make your clients aware of this. If you are, a member of the public, make sure you're in contact with a CPA. They should be on top of all this information. And, and if you're dealing with like an offer and compromise, or you think there's some sort of, different way to do something, someone's got the magic sauce out there, just reach out to your CPA, talk it through with them. They should be the experts.
Can't agree more. I'll just add for good sake, gift cards, never a good sign. Someone
Not a
asks
good
you for
sign.
gift cards, it's not good at all. So thank you for tuning in to parts 1 and 2, the IRS Dirty Dozen. Thank you for the IRS for taking time out of your busy lives to put together this list, so we had something fun and interesting to discuss with everybody out there in the world today. Don't forget, you can click to subscribe to the YouTube channel, stay up to date. And as always, we challenge you to take action to change this crazy world we're all living in and invest in yourself.